Right, so this laptop was sent in to me by a friend, and he basically asked if I could do anything about it because it won't turn on anymore. Or, I mean, even if it does turn on, it doesn't seem to want to stay turned on, and instead he opted to get a new laptop. So I'm gonna see what I can do about it. I'm gonna try and diagnose this live for you guys so you can see kind of like the procedures. Yeah, procedures and methods that I use to diagnose computers. And yeah, let's get started. Oh, and if you notice that my left index finger is a little bit weird, it's because I had a voting today for our elections here in Malaysia, and my finger is going to be a bit brown and purple for a very long while. But yeah, I mean, it's for the betterment of the country, and I hope that you guys in Malaysia voted as well. With that out of the way, let's get into figuring out why this thing doesn't work. Let's go. Right, let me start first with wiping down this laptop with some alcohol wipes because, no offense to my friend, but yeah, it's kinda gross and definitely in need of some cleaning. Now, the friend mentioned that it sometimes has difficulty getting into Windows, sometimes it will crash and reboot by itself, so I'm just gonna try and power the machine on, and that definitely does not sound good. It definitely sounds like the fans are a bit busted, which would explain why it would reboot itself, as the CPU and or GPU could be overheating. So I think it's time that we get inside. With the bottom panel of the machine off, the first thing that catches my eye is definitely the amount of dust around the heatsink and fans. Whenever you're working inside any electronics device, the first thing that you're going to want to do is disconnect the battery. This is extremely important. It is very easy to accidentally damage things and cause short circuits, and you do not want that. In my case, I am of course also going to disconnect the fan header because I want to remove the fans, but to do so I'll also need to remove the heatsink as they're attached to each other. Aside from the two fans, 5 extra screws hold the heatsink onto the CPU and GPU. With that undone, we can finally remove the fan and heatsinks, and taking a look at the thermal paste, it definitely looks a bit dry, but this is the kind of thing that I would expect of a machine that is 6 years old. And back to the fans, the bigger fan of the two is definitely a bit stuck. We'll definitely have to have a closer look at it, but before that I'm going to just clean up the existing thermal paste on the CPU and GPU and on the heatsink with some alcohol wipes. 6 screws hold the fans onto the heatsink, but they still seem a little bit stuck together, and it makes sense as to why when I flip it around. They're still attached via some bits of tape, so once I loosened those up, they came right off. I forgot to film myself doing this, but I gave the fans a good bit of cleaning. Washed them up in some water, and I noticed that they started free spinning pretty well again, so I lubed them up with some grease and WD-40, and hey, you know what? They're looking pretty good right now, so fingers crossed they don't need to be replaced at all. Whether or not they work, however, we'll have to find out once we put the laptop back together, and I do just that by reversing my assembly steps. But before I put the heatsink fan assembly back on, I'm going to slap some fresh GD900 thermal paste onto the GPU and CPU, because forgetting thermal paste would be a pretty bad time. Before I could put the heatsink and fan back in, however, I noticed a loose screw rattling around the laptop. It's definitely not one of the screws that I removed, so after a bit of detective work, I found out one of the screws on the hard drive cage is missing, and this definitely looks like a hard drive screw. I disassemble the hard drive, put that screw back where it belongs, reassemble the hard drive, and I can finally get back to putting the laptop back together. When replacing the heatsink and fan assembly, I made sure to properly route and not pinch any of the wires that are meant to route around the fans, and with the fan header back in, I can finally secure the fans in with the 2 screws. The battery header goes back in, but before I close the back panel, I want to try and power on the laptop to get a good look if the fans are actually working correctly now, and yes, they're working perfectly again, spinning fine and blowing a good amount of air while staying perfectly silent, so awesome, they won't need to be replaced. While that is a massive win though, I still noticed that the laptop was taking a very long time to boot up into Windows, which definitely feels very wrong, especially since we're booting from an SSD. I got the go ahead to reformat the laptop because it could be a bad Windows installation, but I still noticed some unusual slowness, so I ran ASSD on the laptop and the SSD is definitely running pretty slow. The read speeds are pretty abysmal, but it's the write speeds that are absolutely atrocious, way slower than even a good SATA SSD, which is pretty weird actually, given that it's a Samsung PM951 NVMe SSD. But looking it up online, this kind of behavior looks to be actually pretty normal for the 128GB variant of this drive, which is definitely shocking. I'm not gonna let my friend put up with that, however, so I got him upgraded to a Kingston NV2 500GB PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD, got Windows reinstalled in about 7 to 8 minutes, and running ASSD once more. Those numbers definitely look a lot better, and Windows definitely feels a lot better as it's more responsive. I never ran into those boot up problems ever again, and yep, problem solved, laptop restored. I also made sure to run Cinebench R23 just to see how the thermals were like after the cleaning and repasting, and the CPU is now hovering at about 75 to 80 Celsius on load, which is pretty good. It's definitely not thermal throttling anymore, and you can add that to the list of resolved issues. And finally showing off the end results of our work with this laptop. See how long it takes to boot up. You gonna take long? You gonna take short? The one thing that we'll immediately notice is that it is absolutely dead quiet as opposed to what it was before. And okay, well, it is still, oh no, I mean, that was pretty instant. It's still quite fast then. Yeah, look, this laptop is actually a important memento for my friend, and that's why he actually wanted to get it repaired. Like, he told me that he really wanted to get this laptop fixed because this laptop has been with him through really hard times, and you know, he felt that this laptop really helped him get through those tough times, and yeah, you know, he just wanted to see it come back to life again, because you know, when obviously it stops working as it should, he got really sad about it, even though, you know, he got a new laptop. But you know, he sent it over here. I took a look at it, and I'm actually really happy that I managed to bring this laptop back to life for him. Like, I get it that he may not use this as his main laptop anymore, but I don't think that it really matters. He said he was maybe going to use it as, you know, his media PC for maybe his TV or something like that. And I think that's perfectly fine, you know, so long as another product, another piece of technology does not enter the e-waste bin. And that's always good enough for me. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to this channel. If you really like what I do, comment down below on maybe what you thought was wrong with this laptop to begin with, and whether you thought that it ended up like this. I mean, on one hand, it was actually quite a simple fix for someone who knows what's going on, but you know, on the other hand, I kind of get it that Some people who may not be as knowledgeable may find difficulties with repairing a system like this. And yeah, I guess that's about it. My name is Yang, the tech rodent, and I will catch you guys in the next video, which hopefully is something a little bit different. I'm guessing it's gonna be a review based on what I have in the pipeline, but even if it's another repair, I am more than happy to fix another one of these guys, or laptops, or anything. I've done laptops and monitors at this point and all sorts of funny things. Yes, I will see you guys in the next video.